Good evening, everybody. I did nothing to deserve that applause. My name is Mitch Whitten. I'm with Visit Fort Worth, the Tourism Bureau, and we're excited you're here at the Kimball Art Museum for KERA's Art and Seek program. We're so excited they're back. Before we start the program, I just wanted to give you a taste of what's coming after, and I hope you will stay with us for the reception sponsored by Visit Fort Worth in the lobby afterward. Last time we were here, we showcased some new music and some new attractions coming to Fort Worth. And tonight we have a taste of 3 new chefs who are up and coming in the Fort Worth scene. So you're going to hear about music, but we all know creativity goes together, right? So we have 3 pop-up chefs who are really establishing their voice in the Fort Worth food scene. We have Mariachi Dine-In, the award-winning Tex-Mex place that's popping up on the east side, and Chef Angel Fuentes. We have Scotty Scott. You may know him as the influencer, blogger, videographer, cook, drink, eat, who moved here 2 years ago and is infusing his food with his personality. And finally, we have Wero. You may know him as Nathaniel Gassett, one of the forces behind the new Black Cat Pizza opening on South Main. And he also is behind the high-end pop-up dinner at Black House called Luciérnaga. So lots in store. Please stay with us after the program. But let me go ahead and bring out Jerome Weeks with KERA Art and Seek. Thank you very much.
Good evening. Thank you for coming here. I think you'll be enjoying yourself tonight with some cool music, and as Mitch pointed out, some cool food and drinks. You'll get to meet the artists afterwards. We are here tonight partly because of, oh yes, please return off all electronic devices. We're here partly because of one man, Matt.
Wanna be around, girl. Wanna be around, girl. Ooh, wanna be around.
That, of course, is the title track from Leon Bridges' debut album, recorded 4 years ago, released 3 years ago. It seems it's so long ago, and yet it seems still just like yesterday. And of course, a lot has changed since then. That's what we want to talk about tonight. It wasn't just him, of course. It was also Niles City Sound, the producers of that album, and Shipping and Receiving, where it was recorded. My colleague at Art and Seek, Hadi Moagdi, profiled the people behind Niles City Sound about 1.5 years ago. And Chris Vivian, one of the co-producers, said this, and I thought it made the perfect introduction for tonight. One of the things we've identified as a problem being outside of a music hub, Dallas, is that when you're an artist and you're coming from a place like Fort Worth, it's tough. You've got bills and your time is invested in a lot of places. So you quickly learn that it's easier to move. But we want to stay here. We want to be here. There's so much talent and creativity, and that's what we want to export. This can be a music center too. So to get started, I'd like to introduce you to our panel. Lou Charles was born in Texas, raised between Tobago and Egypt. He's popular on the Southwest hip-hop scene. He's played with such artists as G-Eazy, Biggie Woody Hoodie, and Joyner Lucas. And his newest full-length album is In Transit 2. Lou Charles. Rachel Coley is an indie rock music artist who's played around North Texas with such venues as the Kimball Fest. Her first album, Built for Love, was called the Best Album of the Year by Fort Worth Weekly. And her new album, Override, she is releasing one song at a time. And so tonight, world premiere, you get to hear some of the latest cut from Override called How Can You Ever Forgive Me? Rachel Coley. Alec Janjani was the co-founder of Fortress Presents, the agency behind the Fortress Festival. He is a festival pro, having directed the Lone Star Film Society for 4 years and the Lone Star Film Festival. He got a start in film, working on such movies as Terrence Malick's The Tree of Life, and he has executive produced and co-produced such films as A Country Called Home. Alec. Finally, Amy Miller was spinning jazz and indie rock tracks when she was at UC Santa Cruz. She went on to work for KGZC, am I right, at San Francisco, and became program director for WTRD in Virginia, which was co-owned by Bruce Hornsby. But since 2015, she has been the program director, of course, at KXT 91.7, our sister station. Amy. And an extra special treat tonight for you, as you probably can tell, is I'm losing my voice, so you'll be hearing less of me. Hold your applause. All right. Because many of you probably haven't seen these people or heard from these people before, we thought we'd do a lightning round, a quick lightning round to start off to get to know them. So the question was, what music, what moment, what has music meant in your life? Tell us something about how music has fared in your life. I'll start real quick. Born and raised in Detroit, so I was born and raised with rhythm and blues and Motown. John Lee Hooker played my high school, and you know Eminem's 8 Mile, the movie, his biography. I lived on 7 Mile, but there's a big gap between 8 Mile and 7 Mile. So, Lou.
What's up, guys? Lou Charles. Music. Growing up, I lived everywhere between Trinidad and Tobago, Egypt, Houston, but music was an anchor for me. It kept me anchored in my culture. Me being all over the world, it kept me centered. So, you know, Paul Wall, Chamillionaire, Swisher House, all that Houston rap, Texas, anything Texas rap, you know, you throw that on, and, you know, I'm partying, so that's what music meant to me, yeah.
Hey everybody, my name is Rachel Golay, and you know, growing up, I was exposed to a lot of music in my home. My parents, of course, played vinyl records and a lot of pop music, a lot of ABBA and Elton John and Beatles, of course. But as I started to get older, I was growing up in, you know, small town, Rockwall, Texas, not too far from here. And music started to become something I wanted to create for myself, sort of combining a lot of influences that I had and, you know, using it as a form of self-expression and really like understanding who I was. And so in a lot of selfish ways, music has meant a lot to me personally, but it wasn't until I probably got to college and started meeting other like-minded folks making music that I started to put myself out there more and start to perform and let other people other than myself hear the music. And yeah, honestly seeing St. Vincent perform about, I don't know, maybe 12 years ago, 13 years ago. She was playing at the Granada. She was opening up for another local band called Midlake, and it was just her and some samples and her guitar, and I was just blown away by how talented she was. And this was, you know, before she became, you know, she's taken off, of course, but I think there was a moment where I was like, I want to do what she's doing, and yeah, so that was kind of a pivotal moment for me.
Was it the Granada?
Yeah.
That would have been insane. I'm Alec Janjani. I think one of the first memories about music was, I don't know how old I was, but my first, I think, 2 albums were vinyls of George Strait's greatest hits and Tears for Fears, which I picked up. We lived by TCU, and at the end of the year, although they would throw all the stuff out of the dorms that they didn't want, so I picked up that Tears for Fears record and wore both of them out on a Fisher-Price record player. And that, I don't know what the significance of that, but I think ever since then it's just been that kind of natural. I don't know, it's just always sort of made sense that music is just super important, and I think it's interesting because as you get older you realize it's not necessarily, or I guess people don't relate to music in the same way as you do, and you know, for some people it's less important, for some people it's more. people have a different relationship with it. I think one thing, my relationship with it has changed in that I think one of the things I find most fascinating about music now is you can literally find something you like new every day. If you know, there's just so much out there and it's so accessible. And I think that's daunting in one sense, and I think turns people off in one sense. But I think when you kind of embrace that, it's sort of amazing. It's just, you know, every day you can find a new band on Spotify or somewhere that's just incredible. And that's kind of a great thing about the world we live in right now.
Hey, I'm Amy, happy to be here. And I started with piano lessons when I was really young. And then I grew up kind of listening to classical music and oldies that my parents listened to. And then one day I discovered Janis Joplin and Nirvana. And it was kind of game over for me since then. Getting into radio, I actually used to go to a lot of radio shows as a teenager. As most teenagers, I was broke. So I would call into local radio stations, win concert tickets for me and my friends, and kind of got to know some of the DJs. I thought they were celebrities at the time. Little did I know. And then started doing college radio, and ever since, I mean, music's just been the driving force in pretty much everything I've done in my life.
You're a celebrity to me, Amy.
Oh, thank you.
So let's start with the big elephant outside. Alec, you started it. What does a music festival bring to a music scene other than a couple of days of great music? I mean, what does it do? What can it do?
Sure, yeah. Well, I guess it would, you know, varies depending on what the scene is when it arrives. I think for Fort Worth, you know, I think it's not, there isn't a wealth of, you know, national touring acts coming through here currently. And so that, you know, that was a void that we wanted to fill. And then, you know, so there's an element of that, of, you know, acts like Churches and acts like Leon Bridges, who, you know, currently and very soon he'll have a venue here that will make sense for him. But it's interesting to think about that somebody can start a career here and at this point not necessarily have a platform to play. And so that's an impetus for it. And then, you know, discovery acts that come along with that. You know, I think once you raise a sort of a flag that high, people start to take notice, and then they just start to discover the other acts that are part of that. And then, of course, the benefit of all of that is that the local artists also have that platform and share that stage, and start to interact with those other bands. We had a situation the first year where we had a hip hop artist who interacted with Flying Lotus, who was one of the bigger acts the first year, and ended up going on tour with him, you know, subsequently. Similarly, last year, Ronnie Hart was on stage and earlier in the day, and Lee Fields and the Expressions is a, you know, legendary soul act. You know, heard Ronnie Hart, and they all kind of looked out of their tent where they were getting dressed, and they couldn't believe, you know, that sound was coming from a Fort Worth band. So there are these things that happen at music festivals and film festivals that really can, you know, ignite people's careers. And so so that's a part of the ecosystem we're trying to create as well.
And I noticed that this year's roster is heavy on Texas artists below the headliners. I mean, you have people from Houston, Austin, Dallas. So the idea is people come for the headliners and discover, oh, we've got this guy in our neighborhood.
Absolutely, yeah. There was a really funny comment on Reddit when we first announced our lineup, and we had half the bands blocked out, and they used that exact comment, which is, you know, sure, you come for Leon Bridges, but you stay for Redacted. And and that's exactly it. As I think everybody, you know, under the rare circumstance that it's your very first music festival, you go for a certain band that you're very familiar with and you want to see, but what ultimately gets you hooked, I think, on the experience of a festival is that discovery. And it's not necessarily something, you know, you can discover artists on Spotify and other streaming platforms, but so often, it's the live experience, the energy that they bring to the stage is what really hooks people. And I think Tune Yards was an example of that last year. And Texas, I think that's such an interesting point right now, because the variety of music coming out of Texas right now is insane. I mean, with Khruangbin, who knew, out of Houston, and obviously what everybody comments with them is they're Virgil Abloh's favorite band right now, and that's a mark of cool, for a lot of people. So when you have that, and then you have Leon, and you have hip hop, I mean, it's the art that this state produces, and the variety of it is really mind blowing. So
the discoveries are accidental rather than algorithmic, because I've never bought anything Amazon's ever recommended to me. I don't know about anyone else, but they never seem to make sense to me.
Yeah, well, I think that's evident in I think Spotify's kind of ascent to being so dominant, is that I think they are so much more thoughtful about that, whereas some of the other streaming platforms, were too automatic with it, and you were. So yeah, I think that curatorial aspect of it. I know that's a bad word to say in a museum. We're just putting bands together, but yeah, that's important. And
what feeds a music scene? I mean, for professionals going around, sometimes you can tell this is this kind of music scene, that's that kind of music scene. For instance, Denton has a music scene primarily, let's face it, because of UNT. It's a huge music program. If you wiped out all the bars and nightclubs in Denton, in 2 weeks they'd all start up again because of all the music students wanting a place to play. And same thing with Austin, to a degree, because of UT. Fort Worth, what Fort Worth has going for it is, right now, is growth and youth. It's one of the fastest growing cities, and it's one of the youngest cities. But Alec, Rachel, Lou, if you had a musician friend you wanted to convince to come here, what would you tell them why they should come here?
I would say it's all about the people, man. Like that's what drives any music scene. Just like you said with UNC, it's the students in the school. You knock all the bars down. It doesn't matter if you have a place to gig or not. They're gonna create a place to gig. And what I like about Fort Worth is the sense of community. And I can speak strictly on like the hip hop scene. Our hip hop scene is awesome. It's flourishing. A lot of you might not be hip to it, but the Fort Worth hip hop scene, because of the people in it, not because we have cool venues, it's kind of, I'm amazed that y'all even let me up on the stage, but for real, it's about, you're foresight. Hey man, I'll pay my fee after to get, but no, what's cool is the people. And we have awesome venues that in the last, I would say, 3 years have begun to open up their doors. When I first started rapping, I had two choices. It was either their cellar, which doesn't exist anymore, or it was the Grotto, which don't exist anymore. So now I have the opportunity. I can go to Maine at Southside. I can go to Shipping and Receiving. I can go to RAR on a Wednesday. I can go to Tin Panther. I can go to, we have a Fort Worth hip hop artist on Fortress Fest tomorrow. So it's the people and the opportunities, and that's what I would say. Why to move here? The opportunities they're opening up. You got Black House too. Like you got a bunch of different venues that are opening up to the Fort Worth hip hop scene, and that's awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah, I would add to that as well. Like I feel like it's a very welcoming scene. It's not the kind of scene that sort of closes itself off and has a certain set clique or group of people, and no one can get booked at the venues, and it's it's very I want to say inclusive, and it's really cool to see as well at places like Maine at Southside, for example, seeing bills that aren't just all like one type of music. It's not all just like white dudes with guitars, which, no offense, that's some of my favorite music, but like you can get a diversity of a bill. You can get like hip hop and indie and maybe a DJ or something in one night. And I think as well too, we're trying to cultivate a scene of bringing in new folks and bringing in artists who might need to just sort of cut their teeth with an open mic night, or just kind of ready to open up for another local act. We really welcome a lot of new folks, and we also have really great like camps and music schools around here for like, we talk about this being, you know, a young city. We have, you know, young up and coming artists like going through things like Girls Rock Camp. We've got a Girls Rock Camp chapter here in Fort Worth, and you know, some of the girls that have been through that program are in bands that are like playing in bars around here now. A lot of them have X's on their hands because they're still, you know, under 21, but like they're the future of the scene, and so I feel like we're a very forward-looking scene, a very, you know, welcoming and open scene, I would say.
I'm probably the least qualified to answer the question. I don't, you know, being on the side that I'm on and not, you know, not familiar with what a musician would want or need out of a city. But I think, you know, I would think that from my perspective, it seems like culturally and sort of community-wise, the city is taking pride in having a music scene and having musicians live here and work here and start their careers here. And I think it's interesting how it oftentimes something like that is ignited by, you know, a spark like Leon and what, you know, someone showing, you know, demonstrating that sort of ascent is possible. And I think in other communities, you know, in other mediums, you've seen that where it sort of demonstrates that, you know, you can start something here, you can create something and momentum for yourself, and maybe, you know, maybe there's an advantage to not being in a place where it's super saturated. I mean, I've heard people say that about musicians say that about places like Austin, that it's, you know, there is a point where it gets, you know, to be too much, and finding that happy medium. And I know from a filmmaking perspective, that's definitely the case. I mean, Texas all of a sudden became this great place to make films because I think partially there's a perspective thing too. You're not sort of in this environment where there's a machine creating, you know, like LA or New York, where there's these machines creating art, and it gives you a new perspective, and oftentimes that perspective becomes like the new fresh thing. And so I think it's got to be a tough, you know, I'm sure a tough line to walk in terms of, you know, is there enough here, or, you know, or is there too much elsewhere? But I think ultimately I would, you know, venture to say any scene, any place where there's going to be a development of music has got to be one that supports it financially, and people have to continue doing what they're doing. You know, they have to make a living, or you know, somewhat of a living to do it. So I think, you know, hopefully that's where Fort Worth is going, and other cities have gone, and that we value it that much that we also sort of realize, you know, there has to be an economy there, and people have to earn in order to continue and to sort of, you know, be excellent at what they do.
Amy, something you and I talked about, something that you told me that you found striking about Fort Worth scene in particular, but was happening more and more, was this kind of do-it-yourself, do everything, record store and everything. I was wondering if you could talk about that.
Yeah, well, what I was talking about was Dreamy Life Records, which I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with. And, you know, I moved here about 4.5 years ago from out of state, and I was just really impressed when I moved here because Jerome, like you were saying, Denton kind of has their thing going on. There's a lot of students there, which means there's kind of a lot of in and out with musicians and people that are part of the scene there. But Fort Worth, I mean, Fort Worth musicians have such pride, especially the ones that are from here. And moving here and seeing something like Dreamy Life Records was really cool for me because I hadn't seen a lot of things like that before. And for those of you who don't know what Dreamy Life is, they're not only a record label, but they're a record store, and they have a recording studio that they record some of their bands at. It's just a really, really cool thing happening in Fort Worth here. And they actually just moved into a new location, which is at a music venue in town, Main at Southside. So yeah, from kind of an outsider's perspective, it was really cool to move here and see that kind of community and that kind of thing happening where somebody had an idea, wanted to start up a record label, and now it's just kind of this group of people that kind of do it all.
And Panther City was also one?
Yeah, there's a new record store in town, Panther City Vinyl in Fort Worth. And yeah, you and I were just kind of talking about how, you know, records are coming back and vinyl's coming back, and, you know, big record stores don't exist as much anymore. Tower Records is no longer here, and since all the big record stores kind of went away, I feel like there was kind of a drought for a while, and now, you know, they're becoming a thing again, and again, they're kind of, you know, not just sticking to selling records. They're music venues, and they're community spaces where musicians can come and hang out and talk music, and so it's really cool to see some of that stuff popping up in Fort Worth.
I want to ask Lou a question, so let's play Lou's song, Mama Says. This is just a minute cut.
Lay back, chillin' now. Living life, but what's a life worth living for? Yeah. Something like that. Yeah. Underlay, mama, E-I. Attempt to maneuver faster, but I'm denied. Need I remind, steadily trying to find how I ended up here, pressing rewind. Don't think I found myself till I was truly lost. Drowning in a swimming pool of liquor, man, I'm lifted off. Getting sauced in the AM to the PM to the AM. Feeling weak, my soul aching. Tired of chasing the same old shit that's evading me. Never stood a chance, most advised that I take a seat. Slinging eighth and G's, making cheese, stalling, waiting impatiently till the pace of progression creeps slower than Mayweather Reed. Hopes and dreams feel like hopeless schemes. Step between where I'm at and where I wanna be. Obstacles too tall, too lost in the game. Opportunity blue ball, that bitch never came. Want the world to see me as I see myself. Young, black, and gifted, get it? You can smell the wealth, never knelt at the feet of no man. Mama say I'm chosen, so watch your firstborn make the world work for him. Sad.
Everything glitter ain't gold.
It ain't go.
Never trust a face you don't know.
You don't know.
Pulling pants up, boy, don't cut.
Shut your mouth.
Keep your fam close, keep God first. Mama said, go and get him, go and get him, go and get him. Go and get him, go and get him, go and get him. Mama said,
One of the interesting things about Fort Worth and music right now. Is this program in which they're actually paying artists to leave town. And you've been involved with that twice. You went to South by Southwest. Tell us about that.
Okay, so Visit Fort Worth here, Fort Worth. They put on an event, South by Southwest, and the first year they invited us out. Me and my man Chico, one time for Chico over there. Yay, Chico, my man DJ Chico. Yeah, that's my right hand man. So me and Chico, we went out and we performed, and we were the only hip hop act on the bill for 2 days, a 2-day lineup. Me and Chico, our set was the only hip hop act. And they came to me and they said, Lou, you had the biggest turnout out of all the acts on the bill. Let's do it again the next year. So we went down this past March, and they said, this time we want to give you a whole hour. Do whatever you want to do with it. I said, okay, cool. So I called up my man Solar Slim. He's performing at Fortress Fest tomorrow. Go check him out, 4 o'clock. And my man Smooth Vega, and we went down there and we had a hip hop happy hour, and it was a real cool opportunity for us just to get out the city, get in front of a new audience, and I have to give all the credit to Hear Fort Worth and Visit Fort Worth, because I would say about 2 years ago they had a town hall. And they were talking about all these initiatives. They had everything that they wanted to do. They had a long list of initiatives that they wanted to do. And I'm just sitting back quietly, and they opened up question and answer. I said, yo, are y'all doing anything for hip hop? I see everything y'all are doing, but I don't see nobody who look like me. Or are y'all doing it? Are we doing anything for hip hop? And you know what? I said that, and they responded. And once again, I take it back to people, right? They could have heard me say that and just been like, yeah, okay, cool. Which is a typical response. You could definitely get that. But they said, no, Lou, let's open up that dialogue. And from there, I've been able to be the first hip hop artist to play Friday on the Greens. I've been able to be the first hip hop artist to be booked at the Main Street Arts Festival. It got rained out, so I can't say I performed. It got rained out, so I can't say. I got booked, though. No. but what I have to say is that you know, it's big for when you talk and you speak up, to have people listen and people facilitate that. So you know, I give big ups to you know, Tom Martins, Mitch, and all the Bob and everybody in the audience for sure.
So what's the point of this? Why are they doing this?
I think why. Okay, well, I think that they're doing this because they want to tell the story of Fort Worth. You know, they want to portray Fort Worth to make it a good place for people to come visit, move. And I think when you tell the story of Fort Worth, you got to tell more than one story. I think that they really have a finger on that. You have to tell more than one. There's more than one story. There's not just one Fort Worth experience. And I think that would be the main reason.
So instead of sending in addition to sending the typical businessman to sell the conventions, they start showing you some of the attractions, listen to what you can hear.
Correct. So yeah, they definitely do that. And I think that, you know, you give people a taste of what the culture is in Fort Worth. You know, one of the cool things was between me, Solar, and Smooth Vega, we all come from different parts of the city. So we all touch on different aspects, and we're all from different scenes of the city. So once again, you do get those different experiences that you might experience. Yeah, might get.
Cool.
Awesome.
I want to ask Rachel a question. So, can we have our world premiere? How can you ever forgive me?
How can you ever forgive me? How can you ever forgive me? I'm blind to anything past now. I'm blind after the night beat. The man you are at the
You guys both need to send me those songs so I can play them on the radio.
Should be in your inbox shortly.
I leave the cuts long enough so you can hear the horns come in on both of those tracks. I just love the horns coming in. They're just gorgeous.
Thank you.
One of the things you told me when we were talking about the scene here and about Leon Bridges, you made an interesting point to me. You said Leon Bridges' success wasn't simply a case of, yay, a local artist made it, but he did something that's pretty unusual in today's music industry.
Right, yeah. I think, if you're familiar with Leon, you know that he's very proud of, being from here in Fort Worth, and his early days were really just sort of like playing any and every stage, playing a lot of coffee shops, open mics. Literally, he still does this, but just walks down the street with a guitar, plays outside, just is passionate about music and loves writing music and loves collaborating with other people. And his success and sort of, getting signed to a major label and, of course, now touring the world and Grammys and all of that, I honestly was very... I just didn't know that was something that still existed in today's music industry. It feels like a very, we see the industry is often very, cultivates very manufactured, hand-picked artists like these pop creations. But to see actually someone homegrown who really has that raw talent be, elevated, it's really exciting. And I know it's absolutely not the norm, and you still have to sort of be anointed.
And so he did this without, creating 7 million followers on YouTube first.
Right, exactly. That's the thing these days. If you're going to get signed to any kind of major label or get that kind of attention, a lot of times they want to see the numbers first. They want to see, like, well, how many YouTube views do you have? How many Spotify streams do you have? And he was really just like, he met the right people at the right time, and they saw the talent, and the rest is history.
We were talking, all of us in conversation, about this question of DIY, the sense that pretty much you guys are doing it all yourself, managing, producing, that sort of thing. But there's also a certain level of professionalism in the area. I mean, you can do videos here with a pretty high level of talent. I was wondering if you could talk about that. Is it still a case of, oops, I ran into someone on the street and he became my cameraman?
Yeah, honestly, I have to credit. I mean, I met a lot of the folks that I still work with today through TCU. I majored in what was called radio, TV, film at the time. Now it's called film, television, and digital media. They dropped the radio, which I know it stings. It stings. It's still there though. They still have a great radio station there, KTCU. But yeah, I met a lot of folks. I met Russell Jack, my co-songwriter and producer at TCU. We were in the same program. And, a lot of folks that came out of that program are still in the area, still, call Fort Worth home. And Chip Tompkins is an amazing, director. He directed our music video for Built for Love. And yeah, it's professional, but we're all doing it ourselves, and it's, I have to credit a lot the university being there, but also just having a spirit of just wanting to put things we're excited about out into the world. Like Amy was talking about Dreamy Life. They of course have a record store because they want to sell music. They want to sell their own band's music and promote that, but they also, record compilation albums with, Dreamy Life, Low Life recordings. It's just like this amazing community of people who, just want to find ways to elevate each other, and that's something that's really, I think, special about Fort Worth still.
You told me something about the TCU radio station as being particularly valuable in your area.
Yeah, man. TCU Radio, KTCU. They've done a good job of opening up their format. They have a show that's dedicated strictly to hip hop, and they'll make sure to play local rap on it, and that's been awesome. We haven't always had that option. Also, they have a local lunch. I've seen your name on there a bunch of times, but they have a local lunch where they play an hour of straight local music, and they'll tell you, they'll say, hey, this next song is by Golay, and it's and they do a good job of getting that out there. Recently, I would say the last month, they've opened their format up again, and they've added hip hop into that format. So you turn on KTCU at lunchtime, and you might hear one of my records. So it's pretty cool.
Amy, we were talking about the nature of the music scene and the kinds of things you could hear here. And you sent me a number of cuts, and I was surprised at some of the things. To be honest, I would not figure they were from Fort Worth at all. And this is one of the cuts that you sent me. This is from the Kush, Orange Like Water. This is a husband and wife duo. as I told you at the time, if you'd bet me money, I would have probably said 90s electronic dance music, maybe British, because of the sound, the wispy female voice, the chanteuse quality that on the top and everything. And yet this is from Fort Worth. What does that say about the scene that this could actually be here?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people don't realize Fort Worth is more than just the Texas sound, which I know a lot of people from out of state kind of have that stereotype of Texas, myself included before I moved here, I'm not gonna lie, but I speak with record labels all the time for work, and they don't realize just how much music and how many different types of music is coming out of this area, indie rock and hip hop, and yeah, sure, you have your country bands and all of that, but I mean, the sound in Fort Worth and North Texas in general is just so diverse.
Why is that?
Why is that? Well, I'm not sure. I mean, these days you could say it's because there are a lot of transplants coming to Texas, so you get a lot of influences from outside areas. But I'm not really sure. Maybe one of you guys can answer that a little bit better.
I think, for me personally, I know this is one specific view, but I grew up with access to, more music than what was just available around me. So I was able to, when I was, a kid, kind of like discovering Napster and illegally downloading MP3s.
Hey, Napster.
Yeah. And just like hearing word of mouth things about, bands my friends were listening to, but then also being able to, honestly, the internet opened up a lot of my musical horizons more than maybe if I hadn't, I would have been maybe more bounded into whatever, maybe country stuff was going on in Rockwall at that time, which is, again, not going to dog on country. Like Dolly Parton is still one of my all-time favorite artists of all. I mean, you can't go wrong. But I think, we were talking about this earlier, but sort of we're at this point now where we have just this massive library of music that we can listen to through, platforms like Spotify or even, independent platforms like Bandcamp. And in a lot of ways, we can have things cultivated to our tastes based on what we're already listening to, which is really cool. But there's something special about making a connection through a live show or a festival and discovering and stumbling across something that you never knew you would like, instead of sort of having it spoon-fed to you. So I guess, I don't know, that's answering maybe 3 other questions that you didn't ask at all. But I would say, if I had any takeaway for anyone, I would say get outside of maybe your musical comfort zone and take a chance on something new, because you don't know if it might be your next favorite thing to listen to.
I believe that it has to do with Texas in general and location. That's this crossroads. We had a panel like this on the Fort Worth music scene, the history of it. And I played a number by T-Bone Walker from 1952, who's from Dallas, but married in Fort Worth and lived here a while, so I thought we could claim him. And the interesting thing was it starts off with a Latin rhythm, and then it has a blues chord progression starting. And then he does a guitar lick that is pure Chuck Berry, only Chuck Berry won't play it for another 5 years. So you have blues, Latin, and rock and roll in Fort Worth in 1952 in one song. And it's that crossroads of African-American music, of jazz, of Bob Wills, country swing, all of that stuff happening here. So it's actually kind of a tradition of feeding all these different things and taking off bits and pieces. So in a way, it's not surprising, but I wouldn't have guessed that was from Fort Worth.
Well, I was also going to say, to go along with that, maybe just geographically, you think of bands, any band coming from the West Coast and the East Coast kind of touring through the South, you think of the biggest places to play that are right in the middle, and it's Austin and Fort Worth and Dallas. And then these days, one of the biggest music festivals is South by Southwest, so any booking agent who kind of knows what they're doing is going to book the bands at South by Southwest to play the closest major city, and that happens to be up here.
Before we turn it to our audience questions, I had one final lightning round, and I wanted each of you to give an audience members a tip. Club, music, band, a drink, anything. Just give them a piece of advice. We'll start with you.
Start with me? Okay. I would say support your local rapper. Okay? That's what I would say. I would say support your. But it goes a little deeper than that. It goes a little deeper. I'm looking around the room. Where my rappers at? Just raise your hand. Where my rappers at? I see 1, 2. I got my man Chico back there. We got Eric Evans. We got David Allen Dope. We have a growing scene, and it's real. It's underground. It's been underground, but we're building it up. We're building it up. I throw a show every year. We're doing it June 15th. You guys come out, Main and South Side, Louisville, pull up to that, and you will really be able to see the Fort Worth hip hop scene for sure.
My advice is don't sleep on the local hip hop scene.
Hey, I appreciate it.
Yeah, no, I like I was saying, just a second ago, take a chance on something new. Anytime you're looking for something to do on, Friday or Saturday night, even a weeknight, there's always stuff going on. Main at Southside is one of our favorite local venues over.
The best.
Yeah, it's literally, on Main Street. And I would also say that, we've been talking about how important it is for the city of Fort Worth to be actually like giving money to artists so they can tour. Like that's honestly sometimes the difference between getting to tour and not getting to tour. Honestly, like a big takeaway for, that I would like everyone to sort of leave here tonight with is if you have also an opportunity to, purchase music or listen to music, Spotify is great for kind of discovering things, but if you really want to support like directly monetarily an artist, using either their Bandcamp website or whatever, store, or even going to a show and picking up something physically in person, that makes a huge difference. It's just, we all value art. Art makes our lives better. Music makes our lives better. And we want to make sure that artists can have that be their main vocation and not have to do like 5 other side hustles to make it work. So we should, have our artists be able to make a living wage, I think, so.
I would second that. I mean, I think just in general, a creative community exists on, to a large extent, money, like anything else. And I think if we want that, there can sometimes be a sort of sense of entitlement to, certain things like museums and art. And I think that it's important that we recognize that those things exist on an economy too. But I think as far as the other tips, Discover Weekly on Spotify. I think everybody should have a Spotify account and listen to Discover Weekly weekly, and you discover a lot of stuff.
That's how that works.
Yeah, really. It's weird how that works. That's how I find music, and you just can turn it on, and you will, even just kind of listen in the background, and something will all of a sudden stick out at you, and you've never heard of this artist, and you save it, and that's how I create playlists, and it's really amazing. So gin martinis would be the drink. That would be my other tip. Yeah.
My advice would be to go and support live music, support your local music scene, because any national awareness to Fort Worth, it all starts right here, and going to see live music is a huge part of that. Two artists, great artists that you can go see, are sitting right up here on stage, and then the Fortress Festival going on this weekend has a great local lineup that you can check out. I'm also going to do a shameless plug right now. I actually host the local show on KXT Thursday nights at 7 o'clock. If you're looking to check out what's going on here in Fort Worth and the rest of North Texas, please check out the show.
And a less shameless counter plug, I would recommend listening to Paul Slavin's show on KXT.
That as well.
Because unlike Spotify, he will play anything. And to me, it's like the last bastion of what used to be called freeform radio, where you could hear literally anything.
I think I heard him go from John Coltrane to Patsy Cline one night. It was amazing.
I grew up in Detroit, and there was a freeform radio station that, with songs they didn't like, they would actually take the vinyl record, drill a hole off center, and then play it. And so you'd get this crazy scratching, weird noise and everything. And they would announce, that was Deep Purple. Anyway, they would do this. So Paul doesn't do that, but he does some pretty crazy, amazing things in an hour. So I recommend it on KXD. Any audience questions? Your chance to ask these artists. Yes, sir.
Wanted to just make a mention, I know Rachel knows this, there's a station in town that plays only local music, 97.5 Pirate.
Yes, 97.5 The Pirate is doing amazing, amazing work. It's a local frequency radio station. They also have artists come in and they do, they have specialty shows, music shows, talk shows. But yeah, they're a huge, they only play local music, like Matt's saying. So definitely check that out. It's all listener supported. And again, radio's not dead, right?
Far from it.
Is it an LPFM? Is it a low power FM? Okay. Cool. Yes, sir.
So you guys kind of touched on the machine, right, in LA. You've got great stuff, and it's only getting better. The problem I see is there's nowhere to put it. There's nowhere to throw it. So how do we get to a point where it's not just like you're around the right people, the Leon situation, right? How do we get to a point where we're talking to the same people that are talking in LA?
It's a question I asked a number of you when we were speaking. How do you get from regional to national, is what you're saying, in a way.
Well, how do we even get a constant regional flow? You know, like there's just like such a disconnect where that a lot of bands who are trying to make it migrate to Dallas for the gigs and for the money, basically. You know, the venues out here, they don't want to give you a portion of the alcohol sales. There's a big disconnect, and I am honestly just curious, how do we make this happen for the city?
That's a big question, man. That's a big question. So I'm gonna try. All right, I'm gonna try. If I butcher it, don't. I think that we have to. I would say Fort Worth hasn't had a community like we do now. I would say, yeah. And would you agree with that? But I would say the Fort Worth music community has not been connected any stronger than it is right now. And I think that we have to kind of take that approach where, we're kind of stronger together, and I think that if we take this approach where we kind of try to move in a way together, I think that might be, is that like creating is that collusion? Is that collude? Am I saying we should collude?
Yes.
but that's what I'm saying, right? No, but what I think is I think that find your pocket, your artists who make music like you do, who want to throw shows, the same shows as you would like, and try to figure out how you guys can set up that situation. I'm just gonna piggyback off of what I've done with my show, Louapalooza. I started off with a bad door deal, but I said, I'm just gonna I'm gonna show them what I can do. So I just came in, we piled into Lola's the first year, and Lola's was like, let's do that next weekend. Let's do it again. So I think it's a little bit of show and prove, really. Yeah, but I think that's where it has to start. We have to prove that we have it, because right now you go to a venue without proof that you can do what you're claiming you can do, and you ask for their bar, they're gonna laugh at you. They're not coming off the bar. So I think that you a little bit has to go into the artist actually proving, hey, I'm worth this, and then from there we can start having other discussions. Yeah.
On a certain practical perspective, this is true across all arts. I know nationally recognized artists, musicians, visual artists, literary artists who get reviewed in the New York Times who have day gigs. I mean, they do, they have to, because that's the way they get health care. I mean, that's just a fundamental fact of life in America.
Yeah.
So I'm saying that it is a fundamental issue. The NEA did a study on the major sources of support for artists in America, and the second one was spouses. Tells you about America and the arts.
So you're saying just marry
Who's
good.
single?
Just marry well. All right, I got you. I got you. I
Yes,
got
ma'am.
you.
We need more people like you.
One more question? Yes, sir.
So, I hope I'm not stepping outside the bounds, but I live in Denton, and I come down and I'm in Dallas a lot, and I lived in Austin for 15 years. And in my opinion, like between the three, and maybe you can speak to it because you're kind of, you deal with all three. Like it would seem to me that like you got this like superpower of music. I mean, between the three cities together, Denton, Dallas, and Fort Worth, you've got more musical talent than probably any place in the country. Yeah, I would even venture to say LA, like New York included. So like, is there, I know, like I said, I know this is Fort Worth centric kind of thing, but like, what about kind of uniting the powers to, yeah, like something really like, because I live in Denton, and the opportunities to play and make money in Denton it's a small town. So I'm in Dallas, and I'm in Fort Worth, and I'm like all over the Metroplex all the time doing that. And what I mean, like just kind of hopping around, you just see like, it's amazing. It's like, it's truly amazing. I live in Austin, I love it, but it's a million times better than Austin, in my opinion. So,
I agree. I was very pleasantly surprised when I moved here because as an outsider, you hear of Austin as being the music city in Texas, and I moved to Dallas, and I was like, oh my God, there's so much here, and there's not only so much in Dallas, but there's so much in Fort Worth and Denton, and all three cities kind of have their own scene going and different types of music, and it's really amazing. So I'm on the same page as you.
One of the things that I think is worth mentioning about artists who make a living in this area doing that kind of thing, the Denton, Dallas, Fort Worth trio, is you are covering a size of land about the size of the state of New Jersey. People don't realize how big the Metroplex is in just sheer land. It is the size of Massachusetts. So you're trying to put a career together across a piece of land that big. So yeah, I admire artists who can do that. That takes a lot.
Well, and think of it this way. There's, 6 million people in the Metroplex? So it's like, that's out of that's a lot of musicians.
It's a big
And you need a
audience.
lot of venues for that, and so I think there's room for kind of everyone.
The good news is I get to tell you there's drinks and food. And Matt, if you could play us out with the Quaker City Nighthawks. Thank you very much. Thank our panel.